creativity. It's always a interesting one to define, right? Creativity is just allowing us to be human and think outside of what we might have been expected to or what the rules say, and to mix things up, to change the path. And then when you do, that's where you get to new, right? And that's what's exciting. It's new things that you've never seen or thought of or surprise you. It's so unexpected that this new outcome came from it. I grew up in Oklahoma, born in a small town, Veneta. It was famous for two things. It was home of the world's largest McDonald's at the time, and also the Oklahoma State Mental Institution. Really, when you think about where I've ended up, this intersection of large brands, iconic brands, and a little bit of crazy is exactly kind of the business that I've become and I'm in. My parents were young. They had me when they were teenagers, so 16 and 19. They ended up starting a business, which is kind of funny. It's a head shop, so they sold paraphernalia for pot. Also, it was a half waterbed store. They were taking risks, they were having a good time. They weren't sure what next week held, but they didn't let it get in their way. Even if times sometimes were hard, we always had a good time as a family and always laughed. Because my parents were young and I thought a little bit irresponsible. Turns out they were just teenagers. I never stepped out of line. I was just really committed to doing hard work. Being in a small town, not a lot going on, busy young parents, you have to entertain yourself. I think that's where a lot of the creativity came from. Having to be creative to pass the time, to not be bored. I was inspired early on from a grandmother of mine who was a painter. She had always been this really fiercely independent woman, a really creative person. She had an art magazine, and she sort of took me under her wing. She never had a daughter, so I was like a surrogate in a way. I learned a little bit about just being a creative, being a strong woman that has a lot planned out ahead and wants to do a lot in life. The Family Feud came through Oklahoma, I think, looking for some more interesting characters. And my family actually won the audition. And my grandparents, my mom, we were all on Family Feud when I was in first grade.
You're the little girl, Tiffany, who brought me all those lovely drawings, didn't you? Thank you.
Which actually sparked me straight out of high school, loading my car up and moving to Hollywood, just like, the Beverly Hillbillies.
So they loaded up the truck and they moved to Beverly Hills, that is.
100 love-starved people looking for a taste of romance on MTV Singled Out.
There is, unfortunately, some footage of me that exists on the Singled Out dating show from when I first got out there.
Hello, Tiffany.
Hello.
Say hello to the men.
Hello, men.
Thought I was going to be a famous actress, maybe, but went on one audition, thought it was awful, and kind of switched modes to the other side of the camera and found another outlet. Imagine mid-90s. It was the start of the web boom. A neighbor of mine was starting an internet company, and I started working for them as kind of an office assistant. I loved being in the beginning of something. You could feel that this was the start of a whole new thing. People didn't even have fast internet lines at the time, and I was having access to this and realizing that the internet was gonna just change a lot of things. On the side, I would come up with ideas. I started to teach myself how to design, and I started to earn my way into actually designing and creating for them versus just being kind of an office assistant. We ended up doing all of Walt Disney Pictures websites. They bought Pixar, and we got the website for Bug's Life. And Steve Jobs was there at the time. I was 19 years old, presenting to Steve Jobs. We were gonna trick people a little bit by taking a picture of their desktop, all their folders, freezing it, and then having it look like your computer was taken over by a virus, but they were actually the characters for the movie. And we thought it was just super clever and they were gonna love it. And he looked at me and he says, "That's cheesy." And I was like horrified, Steve Jobs is telling me my idea is cheesy. 19-year-old Tiffany realized she had a lot to learn still. So I enrolled at Art Center College of Design. I knew I wasn't just wanting to be a graphic designer. There was something about understanding the business, understanding different concepts, understanding different parts of it, both design. I liked to write. I liked a lot of different aspects. And for me, advertising was this blend of business and creativity that I was interested in. So I was at Art Center and starting to enter student awards, and one of the judges was from Crispin Porter Bogusky. At the time, they were doing Florida Truth, the anti-smoking campaign.
We're gonna leave this here for you, so you can see what 1,200 people actually look like.
They were going onto the streets, they were creating really interesting work that young people were getting involved in, and it felt really different, and I wanted to be a part of it. So I packed my bags and moved to Miami. The energy of the place, the approach, there was something about how Alex Bogusky looked at work that I think attracted people. Thinking of advertising and work through the lens of like connecting in with people, with culture, with movement.
Many of you feel bad for this lamp. That is because you're crazy. It has no feelings, and the new one is much better.
We weren't allowed to put what media form was going to be in the brief. You had to think about what the idea really is about. Writing the ideas in the form of a press release. It reframed how you thought about it, and you brought clients along on that journey. You got to them to see the impact they wanted, the outcome they wanted, and believe in it, and then be on board with the things that we need to do to help make some of that come true. There was just a tremendous kind of like tribal energy around the work that we did and how we could make it great and push each other. I think for a young person coming out of school, there wasn't hierarchy. If you had a great idea, no matter what level you were, your idea could get made, and then it would get lifted up and it was shared. Minnie's when I worked a lot on. Minnie was launching a small car at a time where Hummers were the most popular car in America. We like our big cars. Minnie had a small budget, but we wanted to have some videos, some films on TV. And so we figured, well, brilliant, we'll do some infomercials. But then we realized that you have to sell something with infomercials. So we had to come up with a product. The product was a DVD that helped you identify counterfeit Minis.
They're on the streets, everywhere. You think you're getting a real deal until you try to park it, drive it, or turn it. Don't be fooled by imitations. Be certain that your vehicle is genuine.
How do you really build not just advertising, but a brand and a community and an iconic point of view around that car? And that one was one that I loved a lot of the work that I got to work on there.
This is Shelley Wang and Young Lee, owners of Pinkberry. Shelley and Young, if you're watching, this is American Express Open.
For a lot of young people in their 20s, like working on a small business, brand did not seem very exciting, but I always liked the more kind of boring assignments, if you will. I liked the ones that no one was looking at and no one expected anything from, because you could just go for it. You could do some things, and if you could do great work for the clients that no one expects, like imagine what you can do. Instead of just saying we're for small businesses, we were like, let's actually build a platform. So we built Open Forum, a community of small business owners. It became one of the first content platforms. Influencers weren't even a thing at the time, and we were finding business influencers. And so we turned Amex Open, which was kind of what was thought of as maybe gonna be this boring B2B, into one of our more creative opportunities at the agency, one of the most award-winning ones. They really credit it with helping shape their business. It's still around today. Ads are great, but when you can build something like a platform that is a product that can keep going, that you can build on, even if it's an idea that you continue. I love building into things, investing in things, and then becoming assets for brands over time.
Tobacco companies sell a product that kills their customers, but without their customers, they go out of business. So every day they need to attract what one tobacco exec called, quote, replacement smokers.
Working on Truth also gave me, I think, just a different understanding of what it is that I can do. Like, what can creativity do? How can we create impact, change through the ideas that we have? It ended up being the most successful cessation campaign of all time, like actually attributed with helping to stop smoking in teens. When I realized that, I always say that's the work that's gonna get me to heaven, that wow, like this is really powerful. Like we can do amazing things with what we do. And I love solving all kinds of business challenges, but to also know that you can really affect meaningful change with the work, that's always been a thread that I've, carried through. So I was at Crispin coming on a little over 9 years, and it had changed into different jobs along the way, a different place. We had moved to Boulder. I was now opening the LA office. I just realized, was I learning enough? Is it time to move on? I've been here for almost 9 years. I didn't want to try to recreate what I had had. I wanted to do something that felt like I was going to learn. I had an opportunity to meet with two people that I thought were amazing talent, Ty Montague and Rosemary Ryan. They had started their own thing. They were only in business for a few months. And I decided to join their company, Co-Collective, which was more of a consultancy. To tell other creative people that you're gonna do consulting felt like a death wish. I was a little scared, but we got a lot of really interesting projects.
I'm the only one who gets to decide what to do with my body.
It was formidable for me in that I learned what it meant to really be a client partner. And when you want to sell great ideas, when you want to get involved beyond just the ad campaign, but really understand the brand, the experiences of the brand, the stuff that I liked getting my hands on, you got to go deeper. Partnering with clients, understanding their business, helping them think through things from the inside out was what we did at Co. And I think it changed me as a creative person. And I do believe that creativity is everybody's job. It isn't just the creative department. And that seeing that you have to be creative in all ways opened up my definition, I think, of what creativity can mean. We ended up helping YouTube launch the first global YouTube campaign. YouTubers was not a thing at the time, but we were helping to make it a thing. And meeting these teenagers, in some cases, 20-somethings that were creative people, that were media channels, that were their own community leaders, that had millions of followers, that blew my mind. Getting involved in YouTube really, I think, unlocked for me how I could start to think about what my role can be and how to think about the future of what creative and marketing is, where you are creating with and building communities and understanding what these new platforms can really unlock and change about how we market. I was never really looking to go anywhere, but RGA was always a place in the back of my mind, and they had been looking for a new creative leader. There's some big shoes to fill. I always say a big beret to fill, and Bob Greenberg, who is stepping a little bit back into more of a chairman role. I like places that have humans connected to them that are still sort of part of it. I think it just makes the philosophy much more clear. The DNA of RGA is one that is about change. It is about reinvention. I was like, if anyone can figure out what the next 9-10 years is of this industry as it's changing so rapidly and we can't totally see necessarily where it's going, RGA feels like a place where I could come in and do the next wave, and they'll be open to new ideas and new thinking. I like looking at where things are going, and that I think is what excited me about RGA, where they've always kind of tried to go, and what I'm always trying to do with my own career is just not think about where it was, but think about where we're going and how can I be a part of that. Little did I know that as few as 6 months later, I would be doing the RGA in the middle of a worldwide pandemic from my guest room. But I love that I was able to be at home and have my kids enter a meeting, throw some ideas in the room, give me bunny ears while I'm presenting. Hi. I actually think the most significant change is using technology in service of how we work. How are we connecting people? How are we allowing people to live lives in the way they need to live them? That flexibility, I can do my job and still be with my family and make it work. The ideas come from the culture that you create. You need to change how you work and who you work with and the different perspectives, and that to me leads to different kinds of work and better work. There was a lot happening in the last few years that allowed us to kind of think about things differently. How do we look at our GA and look at technology in a much more human way? We have the opportunity to help create and build the future. We can do that in what we do every day. We have brands that are there helping to build it. We can utilize their power, influence, and money to do amazing things and not be afraid of what's to come, but actually shape what's to come.